Okay, we are live. Welcome to another town hall. And as I'm saying that, I'm just now realizing that I forgot to do my usual post in the hub today with the link. So whoops, hopefully people will find their way. At least we're public on YouTube, so they'll be able to see the live stream if they and those that care to join hopefully already have the link. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. I had a unusually hectic morning with some issues that came up. Anyway, here we go. Action items. Adam was going to work on setting up Trello for tracking projects, and he did that. And I think we talked about that last time. I might have just not taken it off the list, but it's looking good. And we're going to talk about this more today. The next one was for me to populate that with our other known initiatives, which I did start to do, and I added some of those known initiatives down here, and we'll look at that later in the meeting today. But I wasn't able to add everything, and I'll explain why. There's some things that don't quite fit into the way we're doing this now, and I'll need some guidance on that. So that's in progress. I have an action item to email Ian about continuing education credits, which I've done. He is going to look into it for us, but he's got a lot on his plate right now, so it might be a little while. He'll get back to us as soon as he's had a chance to look into that. I'm going to go ahead and take these off of here for now, since those are done for the current for now. Sarah, update and publish the press release for Splints for Ukraine. I saw that went out, right?
Actually, no.
Oh,
So the platform wouldn't publish it because there aren't physical mailing addresses listed on e-NABLE or Adapt 3D. So I talked to David about getting a PO box, and John and I talked about adding something to the e-NABLE website, and I sent that language to you, Jeremy.
Okay, got it.
In an email.
Got it. Which website are you looking to add that to?
The main e-NABLE website.
Which is
e-NABLE.org.
e-NABLE.org, because right now e-NABLE.org just forwards to Enabling the Future.
That's the one.
Okay, I'll have to think about how to do that. Because we'd have to, it's specifically for, we're listing Rochester e-NABLE's address, I assume, right?
Yep.
Which makes sense on the e-NABLE fund page, since Rochester manages that. I have to figure out how to put that on Enabling the Future.
Well, yeah.
My concern is putting an address for e-NABLE kind of reinforces that misunderstanding that e-NABLE is actually an organization,
Well, the wording Sarah sent you tries to avoid that misunderstanding.
Okay, I'll look at that then. If I can get up there, I will be happy to do it.
Yeah, the catch is that EIN Presswire goes to whatever URL is specified and then wants to find a physical address.
Got it. Okay, we can take care of that. Maybe I should put that down for me so I don't forget. All right. Have you heard anything from James Quilty, John, about getting with us here?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
I'm going to pop him an email right now just to
Sounds good.
remind him that we're.
Here's the metrics for the week. Didn't really even look these over carefully. I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary. I'm curious. Oh, we don't have Rick here, do we? Hi, Evan. Okay, I was going to ask Rick. I know he's started and he's working through the chapter audit process. I'm wondering if he has an updated count at this point. I'm sure he's removed some, added some. I'm wondering kind of what number we're at so far. I don't know if it's 200 anymore, but we'll talk to Rick about that next time. Okay, a couple of posts from the hub. Rishab.
Give me 1 second. I was just updating them now. What you're looking at is last week.
No. These are ones I put in this morning.
Oh, okay.
Rishab had questions about foam for e-NABLE devices. And I commented on this one too. Thierry's recommending EVA foam, and it might be just fine. Maybe I'm being overly cautious. I suggested some caution with EVA foam. It does contain something called acetophenone-azine. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's something that can irritate the skin. There's a link to an article here from an allergy place that talks about that potential skin irritation with EVA. And there's also concerns about the fact that EVA foam is typically produced using a substance called formamide, which can produce some off-gassing and has some toxicity concerns. And there's an article about that here. Whether these are certain significant concerns or not, I don't know. Probably not. I prefer to play it cautious. So as I point out here in the kits that we provide, we use medical grade latex-free foam padding. And I did provide a link to the supplier that we use, Performance Health. So if anybody is interested, I'm sure it's more expensive than, you know, buying cheap EVA, but that's for a whole roll that you can get. I don't remember how many sort of, I think we do like 1 foot, 12-inch long sheets of this. And I think you can get at least a dozen of those out of one of these rolls. So you can do the math for yourself. But if having that sort of safety element is important to you, consider something like this. Zeynep has found herself in a rather serious situation. And I have to admit, I was not fully up to speed on how bad things were here, but apparently there were some very bad earthquakes, 2 consecutive earthquakes, bigger than 7 on the Richter scale, which is really a huge level of destruction. So the whole southeast part of Turkey and the surrounding regions, mostly Syria, are impacted here. She says the situation is probably beyond words. Rescue operations are ongoing. She's overwhelmed herself. So she's going to be reporting in the chapter leaders meeting on Monday. And I would encourage anyone that's able to join. I know I look forward to learning more, but I'm glad to know that she's okay.
You know, I'm going to guess that splints are again the short-term thing that we can do safely and effectively.
Maybe.
So we'll talk about that on Monday, but
Yeah.
we should really pile on, I suspect.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
you know, Sarah, since that damn press release hasn't gone out yet, we when it's good to go, we should think about slipping in one more sentence mentioning this emergent situation.
If it unfolds that way, we'll know Monday.
Right.
Okay. So and those were the only 2 that I felt were really discussion worthy. Did you find any others, Sarah, that you wanted to look at?
I just put them all in. There's a student working on a science fair project. And
I saw that one. I felt like it was pretty well covered.
okay. Yeah, then I don't think the others.
I think we'll leave it at that then, if you don't mind. There's
Yeah.
a lot of other things I wanted to get into here.
Yeah.
Don't have any upcoming one-time events. As far as meetings, the next one today, right after this meeting, is going to be the Bionics meeting. John, you said you're able to cover for me on that one?
Yes.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I just I got a little blindsided by some things today. In fact, one of those is my meeting with Brent Hollers, which will be coincidental with that meeting. And I didn't want to reschedule that. I really want to talk with him and try to get things sorted out on this new matching platform for reasons that I'll explain shortly. And then we have the chapter leaders meeting on Monday. That's the one where we'll be hearing more from Zeynep. For February events, so this is the Bionics meeting today. Then we've got the chapter leaders on Monday. Then we go to next Friday, which is going to be the education and new member meetup combined with special guest Brent Hollers, just who I was just mentioning. I'm going to be meeting with him myself today. And so in this one, he'll be talking about discussion of outreach resources and education and how we can connect with members of the disability community for device use and delivery. Sounds like a good topic. And then, of course, our weekly town halls. And as always, thanks for putting this together, Sarah. Okay, so topics. I have to admit, I'm a little bit in need of help here, guys. I'm not an Azure expert. I thought we had taken care of this. Somebody worked with me before to sort of optimize. I don't even remember who this was at this point. I think it was that volunteer developer I was working with, helped me to kind of reconfigure how we had Azure set up and doing, I don't remember what they call it, projected utilization billing, where you kind of pay in advance for a certain amount and it brings your charges way down. Anyway, we made some changes which made it look like it was going to eliminate these huge charges we were getting any month. Something didn't work. I'm still getting hit with $450 a month. And that's the other side of it. I could have sworn, Evan, that you and I had gone in here together and put in the e-NABLE card instead. Maybe I'm confusing it with another platform. So you can see here's all the $450 on a monthly basis. And when I go over to payment methods, my American Express is still the only one in here. So it's all still going to me.
Yeah, we did. And I remember seeing the $45 a month come through our bank account.
The how
I
much a
wonder
month?
if there are two accounts cooking, Jeremy, one for e-NABLE, one for 3D
We're
Universe.
still paying it went down to like $45 a month. I'm almost positive it's this one that says Microsoft on it.
Well, Microsoft does a lot of things. 45 a month sounds more like maybe an Office 365 subscription or something.
But I remember us getting together and putting the card in. We definitely did.
I thought so too. I suspect that this was something that happened on the back end. Microsoft made an error. And I'm half wondering if, we're on a grant with them. We're supposed to be getting, a fairly large amount free of charge before any billing kicks in. And I did renew that not too long back. And I have a hunch that maybe that never kicked in and maybe they're just billing us outright. So I could really use your help, Evan. Maybe on a separate call, we could kind of regroup and try to look into this together. I'm kind of swimming in this right now.
Sure.
I mean, if you're willing to kind of just help me dig into it a little bit and see if we can figure out what's going on and at least take another stab at putting the e-NABLE card in here. But I think ultimately what I really need is I need somebody with some Azure expertise, because I lost my volunteer essentially at this point for e-NABLE Web Central. And so we have this rather complex hosting environment that really needs to be set up right. Otherwise you get overbilled, which I think we are right now. So I really need somebody that knows a lot more than I do, just to look at what we're doing, look at how we're using it, look at where we can scale back our resources. Honestly, we're at a point now where we maybe need to even think about shutting down e-NABLE Web Central if that's the direction we're heading, because I don't know that we should be paying what we are for that hosting at this point if we're moving in the direction of a new matching platform. These are all decisions that can be made, but before we make those decisions, I need somebody that knows Azure to look it over with me and help us understand what the options are.
Jeremy, I might know an Azure expert. Let me reach out to a couple of folks and see.
That would be really helpful. Yeah, anyone that knows somebody, please just reach out, see if they're willing to help. It's really just a consultation I'm looking for. I'm not looking for somebody to take it over or anything. I just need somebody to review what we're doing and help us to kind of optimize. That's all. So yeah, anyone who knows someone, please put them in touch.
Is it ridiculous to imagine that the Azure sales organization would have a sales engineer who could provide that service as we try to untangle this?
Yeah, if you can get a hold of a human being, good luck with that. I've spent, hours upon hours trying to get through to a human, and I've never.
That's what I was asking. Okay, yeah. So Adam, your friend's help would be great. Okay.
So that's obviously a fairly urgent thing that we need to work out. And I'm sorry that there have been such bills. I'll have to consider whether or not I seek any further reimbursement on that. My first priority is getting us into a better situation where we're not getting hit with these big monthly bills.
Right. Well, don't rule out the possibility that they screwed up and didn't somehow incorporate the work that you and Evan did, in which case
possibly.
They owe us.
Possibly. The other possibility, however, is that grant sort of funding was applied and we just chewed through it because we've increased our resource usage so much and then we moved into billing. I just don't know. I have to look deeper into it.
So I wouldn't be, even if that was the case, I wouldn't be surprised if they would make an adjustment. They know that they have a Byzantine system and they are trying to be supportive of nonprofits.
That's true.
So if you guys can get to the bottom of it and I mean, I'm sure you're perfectly capable of doing this, but if you can get to the bottom of it, and then it's a matter of, negotiating with them, Jeremy, you or I could easily do that. And I'd be happy to get on that phone call and just try to.
Like I said, I don't think you're ever going to get on a phone call. Every bit of contact I've ever managed to get has been email. They just don't do phone,
All right.
as I can
Okay.
tell. I'll try it, but I don't think we're going to get
Fine.
anyone on the phone.
The other thing I want to say as a recurring motif is that Evan, look, it would be great if Evan could drill down on this. And yet Evan is doing increasing amounts of service for both e-NABLE and for the ERA these days.
Yeah.
I will say again, Evan, that if we enter a zone in which we're inviting you to do things that you aren't happy to do on a strictly volunteer basis,
Mhm.
you are long since due for some compensation for your proven and excellent service. So
I agree. That's a role that really we should discuss as a funded role, much like the communications role that we have going. I think an accounting role is absolutely one that warrants a discussion of funding for an ongoing role.
Yeah, I appreciate it. As of now, I'm fine on a volunteer basis. So as of,
Given what you said, John, I think I'm rethinking what I just said. I think right now the task is on me. I need to dig into this more, and hopefully with somebody that has some Azure expertise to really figure out what's going on. And then when I get to the point of just, I need your help just to flip the credit card over, Evan. So I will ask you to join me just for that bit to put the new credit card in. But I think first I need to do the legwork of figuring out where we're at and what we can do to reduce spend and make sure our grant funding is in place and all that. So let me work on that stuff first, and then I'll get in touch with you just on the credit card side.
all right, sounds good. Wish I could help with the other stuff. Definitely
Yeah,
not
it's
a
just
developer.
they just don't make it easy, but we'll get to the bottom of it. All right, so that's unfortunately a mess I just ran into this morning. I will work on it and report back. Trello, which I'm really excited about. I want to pop over here and look at this. Adam helped us to get this set up with some column headings, as you can see here, so that it's kind of move things through the phases. And I started to then populate things here into the first column here, which is just, where they start. And so we got a number of spreadsheets where, like this one here, where we had been collecting these different sort of needs. As I went through and started to look at migrating these into Trello, what I started to realize is, well, we kind of defined here a bunch of sort of needs, as in like, this is a kind of a role that we're looking for. Well, that doesn't really fit with the Trello board. The Trello board is more about like projects, initiatives, tasks, And so I had to start to think about each one of these and look at, okay, how do I translate this into a project or a task or a specific thing that we can put on the board? And some of them I found already were represented, but others like, software developer for front end and back end. Well, I don't want to just put a developer on there. I want to think about what do we need a developer for, and we'll put that project on there. So I didn't put those on there right now. I want to focus on putting these specific projects and initiatives. But I did put the ones that do fit, so you'll see that I added documenting additional ways school chapters can contribute to e-NABLE, like device testing and things like that, revising our web presence to bring together these different sites and use more of the design from the French e-NABLE site, an e-NABLE hub greeter. Now this one is a little bit of a role, but I put it in here anyway because I felt like it kind of does fit into the process. We need to get somebody that would take ownership of this, and then we'll get them started, and then it'll eventually go into a monitoring stage. But I guess I'm looking for input from you, Adam, especially, but from anyone, of how do we use Trello in a way that where it can be used for both specific initiatives, but every now and then there will be something like this where it is more of an ongoing thing. The idea here is somebody that, will greet people when they come into the hub and help them to kind of find their place and connect them with the right resources. And this is something that I would hope once somebody takes it on, they'll just keep doing it. So do we just treat it like anything else and just kind of move it over to owner assigned and then in progress when they get started? And then, I don't know, just kind of move it over to monitoring once they're kind of up and running? How would you handle that, Adam?
Yeah, I think this warrants a more focused discussion, like setting an hour aside, kind of mapping out exactly what we think. I think that we've got the solution, right? We've got the tool. that
Exactly what I was
that
thinking.
can
Now we
work.
have to figure out kind of
Yeah,
what do we wrap around it and how do we actually
right.
put it into
Now
use.
we've got to work on the people and processes to use the tool.
Agreed.
And
Okay. So
because off the top of my head, I've got a couple of like general ideas, but
no, I think
would
you're
need
right.
to.
So who wants to be part of that? Obviously, Adam and myself.
Yep.
Anyone else want to join us for that meeting?
Happy to.
Okay.
Is there
Adam?
a link to that Trello on the main website?
Well, we haven't shared it yet. We're just rolling it out now, but I can
Okay.
share it. I will certainly be happy to share it with you if you want to poke around and take a link, because we do
Yeah.
have it set up as a publicly visible. How do I get the sharing link? Public. Do you know where you get the, oh, here, share. And copy link. There we go. And I'll just stick this in the chat for you. Hello.
Sorry, I've got a crazy beagle here.
No worries. Most of us have animals. There's mine barking upstairs.
Do we have a board for for each unit?
Right-
I was
Right
thinking of
now, we
doing-
have one board. Right now, we only
Yeah.
have one board for all e-NABLE projects. What our thinking was that eventually some of these that are bigger projects, like a new primary website, that would eventually split off into its own board where we can detail out other tasks and stuff. But for right now, we wanted to start with a single board just to organize all of our different projects and initiatives.
Okay.
But any input is welcome. If you have thoughts about how this could be set up to work well for the community board, please let Adam and I know, and you're welcome to join us for that meeting if you have interest.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's not too much I can do. I mean, I was thinking of moving over to the bionics side and see if they could use some engineering support. That's about all I'm good at.
Okay, so anyway, Trello is looking really good. Hopefully Adam and I can get a meeting maybe sometime in the next week. I have some availability. I'll try to coordinate with you separately by email, Adam, and we'll see what your schedule allows for.
Yeah, I came down. I was supposed to be in Colorado right now. I came down with COVID this week, so we
Oh,
are.
sorry.
Vaccines are an amazing thing. I have like barely any symptoms, but I'm grounded for the next week. So
Oh,
so my schedule is pretty open.
so sorry to hear that.
That's all good.
Okay, well, I'll send you an email and whenever you're feeling up to it, we'll get together.
Yep. Thanks.
Any news on the Afghan initiative since we talked last time, Adam?
Yeah, yes and no. We've got I think last week I mentioned that we have a handshake, like a verbal handshake from the director of a hospital in Pakistan, who is at least I think I brought this up last week. Maybe I didn't.
No, I think you did.
Okay, good. Yeah, so it looks like we've got a possible I guess middleman who can who has signed on to getting taking shipments. And sorry, my brain's a little foggy right now. Who will be facilitating shipment to Kabul, but obviously things are very fluid still, and we're trying to pin down some of the particulars about cost and the volume that can be supported there. So that's still ongoing. The Helping Hand project in North Carolina, I know I brought them up last week too. We're trying to get time pinned down for next week because we've got a handful or a half handful of volunteers there who want to help to facilitate the logistics. On e-NABLE's side, I would really like somebody's assistance to find a process by which we can better capture new cases. When patients sign up for this, because what I envision here is kind of a long-term component, and making for lack of a better term, sorry, I use a lot of business and sales terminology when referring to people now, which myself from 10 years ago would be disgusted by, but to build up a better pipeline of recipients, right? To give the people on in this community and on this site more to do. And that was really what prompted all of this to begin with. So we've got this huge population there that could potentially give work to our makers for years. and we need to get some kind of system built up so that we can track and attach makers to recipients for the long term, so that as parts break and kids grow, and they can just continue to be responsible for those folks if that's what they choose to do. So I think maybe another conversation might be warranted now that it looks like we actually have a chance to get things shipped, Jeremy, to figure out how and where that can be built in a way that's maybe a little bit more sophisticated than just a Word document.
Okay, so I'm not sure I'm fully keeping up with you here. When we talk about this improved intake process, which I think is what you were going at there, looking at, I don't know if my notes here are right, but like what kind of data points do we need? How do we capture that? How do we handle connecting them with a maker? How do we handle a follow? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
Yep, exactly. And
was that, it sounded like you were associating that with Helping Hands, or is that more associated with the Afghan initiative? What do I connect that with?
Sorry, it's all like I said, I'm a little foggy. I'm not being super clear. The Helping Hand project based in North Carolina, they've got, I was meeting with Utkarsh there, who's kind of my counterpart with HHP. But he and I have been working together for the past several months to try to find some point of connection between e-NABLE and HHP to be a little bit more formalized. I spoke at one of their monthly meetings in December, just to introduce myself and explain what I was trying to do with the Afghan initiative, and source some volunteers who wanted to work with me over the coming months to try to help facilitate this logistics planning. And so what that means was, kind of action item number one was finding a delivery route that would work. And then number two was trying to get some kind of intake process in place. On e-NABLE's end, we need to work on making sure that the tracking is there and that the makers are actually able to view it. But what I was primarily thinking is establishing some, because what's happening right now is that I just have been receiving screenshots of handwritten notes from the P&O lead in Kabul as he's been gathering patients, which is great, but it's not sustainable and it's not scalable. And it's his handwritten, his writing is quite not easy for me to interpret. So I was hoping to have some kind of interface that he can easily use, so that there's no room for error, at least not on the transcription side. So that's where I currently am. I need to have some kind of platform where the P&O guy, the prosthetists who are on the ground taking measurements, can upload photos and enter the measurements that our makers actually need. I just don't know what form that needs to take.
Well, you have, this is an ironic comment, but you have looked at the process that we have in e-NABLE Web Central, right?
I have. Here's the issue.
That's custom development. I was actually thinking Google Form. The only limitation with the Google Form has to do with the photos, because as soon as you put a photo upload onto, or an upload option onto a Google Form, it requires authentication, which can be a hassle for people. There is I've used a third-party sort of a plugin to get around that, so that you can allow people to attach photos or upload, things to a form without having to authenticate. So a simple form, and that way all the responses would just go into a Google Sheet, including a link to the photos.
If that's workable, that sounds great. That the only thing that I worry about is, tracking where that information is stored, so that chapters, when they've or makers, individuals, when they've signed on to a case, that there's some kind of communication possible between the two. I'm just not sure how. I'm not sure that the site is really built.
Well, no, ultimately this needs to go into the matching platform, which is yet to be spun up. But assuming we go in the direction of this switching over to this other matching platform, I think that's the ultimate destination. You want to get that data into that matching platform and sort of manage it through there. But in terms of just making it super easy for people to sort of get bulk information into that might be something that can be facilitated through a form and then an import from a spreadsheet.
Okay, maybe, and I hate to keep saying, well, let's just take more of your time. Maybe this is an offline conversation we can have to Go ahead.
I've got, yeah, a few observations. Yeah, first of all, I think that these days the go-to solution might well be something like Airtable rather than Google Forms, because Airtable, first of all, has relational capabilities. The forms are more elegant and sophisticated, and you
Sure.
can put alerts, and it's got all sorts of interesting features that go beyond, the Google, the obvious suspects from Google.
Sure.
It's conceivable. Airtable now has got a whole front end development platform that might actually be a platform worth thinking about for doing this, either for prototyping or for or maybe even for preliminary production. So I would look at that. I'm quite familiar with the backside of
I don't doubt,
Airtable.
John, that Airtable might work great and might be a superior solution, but when you say you might look at that, who's the you you're referring to? I think that's the question, is who, because there is a lot of work, I think, in setting up something like Airtable to work the way we want, isn't there?
Yes, but vastly less than developing a system. Anyway, my
Yeah.
point is, near term, making a form that will capture the data into Airtable is probably, it will allow image uploading, and it's probably a better place to begin. Once
So
you've
John,
done that,
when you're referring to Airtable, you mean air hockey, right? Because that's the one thing that I actually know about that you could be referring
okay,
to.
no, is that Jeremy is probably going to airtable.com.
No,
right
no.
now.
I was actually going to pull something else up to look. I don't know if I can find it right now, but I wanted
Okay,
to.
Evan, if you're enthusiastic about Trello and unfamiliar with Airtable, I'd like to
Are you talking to me?
Yes, and I know
Gotcha.
I called you Evan, but I meant Adam.
That's all right.
I'd like to give you an introduction to Airtable,
Sure.
and I can work on that form with you, and I can point to the potential of developing that. And I have a feeling you might actually embrace it and say, this is great. This gives me the power to do what I want to do without seeking a highly technical consultant the way Trello did.
So
It's
this
an
is
empowering platform the way Trello is.
what I wanted to pull up here is this is the new matching platform that we're potentially looking at adopting. This is the ones that our friends in France developed, and they already have incorporated in this a page where you can request a device, and it captures basic information about the person. There's a place for uploading photos, there's
Awesome.
comments, there's use. So maybe, because this would feed right into then, this is what creates those requests on the map. So let's look at how we might be able to use because this is something we should be able to modify this, form to have whatever you need in there.
Yeah, I see even less work here for me in this. So
That's right.
great.
No, I agree.
So this is worth looking into more. And I have my meeting immediately following this. So coming up 25 minutes from now, I'm meeting with Brent Hollers to look at this platform and see what we can do. I don't know if you're available, Adam. You're welcome to join us. But
yeah, actually, I just had a meeting cancel. So yes, I'm available.
And Jeremy, I think it's a great idea to actually start by trying to make that component functional to meet an immediate need, and then expand from there.
Adam, this is the email address that's coming up in my history here. Is it okay to send the invite to your Gmail address?
Yeah, please go for it.
There you go. All right.
I'm going to have a hacking fit. I'm going to go ahead and put myself on mute.
No problem. So yeah, that seems like I had never even looked at that before, their intake form. That looks like it's a good place to start. So we'll dig into that. Cool. All right. Where were we here? Helping Hands. And then well, I don't want to, he's offline right now. I don't know if there's anything to discuss with these other potential partnerships. John, do you have anything in terms of partnerships here that you want to talk about?
Well, I can report that Eco Restoration Alliance is going to accept Buttressed e-NABLE Limited's offer of fiscal sponsorship, and that Evan will. Well, we did agree, and I don't think we've done anything about it, that we want to put a fiscal sponsorship agreement on Lumio as an update and formalization of our ongoing relationship. That won't change anything, but it's going forward. That's the news. I don't think there's any other news beyond what we talked about before, but I keep meaning to check to see if e-NABLE.earth is still available as a domain name, and we might do something with that too.
All right. Don't have Rick here today, so I guess no update on the chapter audit. I assume it's a work in progress. Brent and I are going to meet right after this, and we'll be talking about that matching platform. And I hope we'll have some time to talk about collection and distribution of devices as well, which honestly, I'm just not convinced is a good idea for us right now to be trying to do, but I want to get his thoughts and see what the options are. And I think I looked earlier, I don't think I had any tickets to, there was one chapter support inquiry here. I'm checking about my chapter application. Okay, so apparently he's just asking for an update on his chapter application, so I'll let Rick handle that one. Otherwise, that brings us actually to the end of my topics for today. So let me just ask if anyone else has anything at all you'd like to discuss. Otherwise, I have no problem wrapping a little early.
I've got one, but I'll step back because I took up some oxygen earlier.
Oh no, I mean we got plenty of time. So well, I'll go ahead and ask. Anybody else have anything? I doubt it. So it's all you, Adam.
Awesome. So you asked about other outreach opportunities. So Sarah, Jacqueline, and third name's escaping me. The outreach club is,
Brent,
I believe,
yep.
Brent, thank you, is meeting next Thursday.
Do you know Jacqueline's last name?
No.
Nope.
I don't think I do
It's
either.
going to be somewhere.
All right.
But
if it's anywhere, it's going to be in the calendar invite. But I think she just.
Frankly, I'm proud of myself for remembering her first name.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to leave it there. But we are meeting next Thursday to try to shape some initiatives for 2023. You know, what we can maybe focus our efforts on, and what realistically can we accomplish. One thing that I'm really interested in, I just wanted to float this. I don't know if this is anything that necessarily requires approval or but something that I feel like I can do is reach out to health organizations and rehabilitation centers to try to establish points of contact and partnership. I think that there's an opportunity to either and I think I've talked about this in a previous town hall, to either get 3D printers and people who are comfortable using them into rehab spaces, or barring that, getting them comfortable with the idea of working with this community, this e-NABLE community, to print not necessarily full prosthetic devices, but like adjunct devices and tools that individuals with brain injury and stroke and spinal cord injury and amputees could make use of in their day-to-day lives. So these are the kinds of things that like Tainara down in Brazil showcased during her presentation last, what was that, October? So just little things like objects that make it easier for like a pediatric stroke patient to drink a glass of water, small wheelchair attachments, little tools that kind of bridge the gap between like, oh, they've got this great assistive communication device, but it's really hard for them to hold it, or their holder is just like slightly the wrong angle. I feel like there's a lot of custom kind of fiddly work that makers could easily rectify. And OTs, you know, their caseloads are in these settings are frequently pretty intense. So, you know, it's a big lift just to get the sort of, you know, the main deliverable, like the chair or the device or what have you. But then if I feel like we could step into that kind of middle space, that liminal space, to like get it exactly right, to get the thing situated in exactly the right way.
Adam,
make it more comfortable.
We've actually had this. This has come up in a number of discussions, and it seems to be coming up more recently. That the idea that e-NABLE was always intended to be about assistive tech, not just prosthetics. The idea was always way beyond that. It's just the focus ended up being primarily on hands and arms. But we've actually already been in the midst, and we got to get an update from Nush, but what Nush is supposed to be working on is sort of establishing our device catalog with the NIH 3D Print Exchange, but also expanding it so that the prosthetics are one category, but there are other categories of printable assisted devices,
Great.
all the kinds of things that you talked about. Some of the partners that we've already been talking to, like the Illinois Assistive Technology Program and others like Makers Making Change, they already are doing this kind of thing where most of them, it seems to me, based on discussions I've had, tend to focus on one area, like assistive technology. They seem to be focusing mostly on the wheelchair attachment type things, whereas others maybe are focusing more on, things to help in daily life, and that sort of thing. And if the thinking was that if we could, there's an opportunity not only to establish partnerships between those organizations, but also to sort of pool all of those open source designs, because most of them are making use of open source designs, but let's bring those all into a shared catalog. And I think that ties in then with this discussion I'm going to be having with Brent around this challenge of trying to collect and inventory devices. I don't think it makes sense to be collecting and inventorying hands and arms that are not likely going to fit without customization and being tailored to the user. But the kind of things we're talking about here, these more generic types of assisted devices, it very well might make sense to inventory those.
Well, and I would say that the inventory is vital. It is a vital component. Where I'm thinking is maybe being able to leverage that and having a community of rehabilitation centers and acute care hospitals and long-term care and SNF facilities that are just, people who would love to have XYZ thing.
That's true.
But, they don't know how to get it, or it's too expensive, or the person's insurance doesn't cover it. Or if it's
when we talk about these other kinds of assistive devices that don't need so much customization, that you can just print and have on hand, there's this neat idea of you establish a connection with, say, a clinic that is interested in working with us. And we have kind of a package of all these different, devices. They get door openers and they get wheelchair, whatever the different assist. We could have them pre-printed and just send them a whole bunch in standard sizes that they could have there to be able to show their patients and work with, et cetera. So that really sounds intriguing, because I'm thinking about being able to engage more of our maker community, that all these people that are coming to us saying, hey, we want to print stuff. What can we print and how can we get them to people that actually need them? And this is a good avenue for that.
So to that end, I've reached out to a couple of facilities, one of which is one of my former employers here in Kansas City, the rehab, what used to be called the Rehab Institute KC. It's now called Ability KC. But I've reached out to the rehab director there, my former boss, and I'm setting up a time either next week or the following to see if we can get kind of a test kitchen going, where we can kind of, I would just drop by, I'd introduce kind of what e-NABLE does, source some ideas from their OTs and PTs about the kinds of things that are frequently required or frequently gapped, and seeing how we can kind of pair up the idea that these things could just be provided so long as, the specifications are, specified and trying to marry up these, expert clinicians who don't have this technical skill with printing, with printers who don't have the clinical skill, and seeing if we can, kind of power them up. So yeah, I'm excited about it, and I'm hoping that the rest of the outreach crew is interested and engaged in that too, because I think there's a lot of potential there.
I love it. Does anybody have any concerns with? I mean, I think it sounds great.
It's exactly right. I'll remind you that I mentioned Makers Making Change as that kind of a group.
I've got them, the Illinois Assistive Technology, whatever the P stands for, program.
Program, yeah.
I've got them on my list. I haven't made calls yet, but I will be reaching out.
And I am looking again for the OT shop on the coast of France, and I'm looking again for that Italian initiative, which will all be a piece of this puzzle. But you're right on.
Okay, cool.
Adam, if you don't mind, since I'm already meeting with the leaders at Illinois Assistive Tech Program, I'll coordinate a meeting to include you if you don't mind?
Yeah, for sure.
Because I had an action item from our last meeting. That was my to-do, was to get with relevant e-NABLE people and bring them into our next meeting. So I'll coordinate that.
That sounds good. I assume they meet in Chicago, Jeremy, is that right?
Honestly, I don't know where they physically meet. I think they might be more down south, but obviously we meet online, we'll use Zoom.
Sure. I guess the reason, if ever there were a physical thing, that's a quick trip for me. Chicago or Southern Illinois is pretty quick.
Nice.
So from where I am.
Okay. Yeah, I think it sounds
and
great.
before I forget, I forgot to bring this up after Thundergong happened a couple of months ago. But I am, I think I have an in for the community organizers there, just as a reminder. That's the event that Jason Sudeikis and Fred Armisen and others hosts in Kansas City every year. It's a fundraiser that benefits amputees in the Kansas City area. And I believe I have a contact who can get me in contact with the director. It's someone who is like an area VP with hanger clinics, it turns out. And I don't know, how do I say this politically and politely? I don't know what everyone here's opinion is of hanger. I know that in the amputee and prosthetics community, people either love them because they've done great work for them, or maybe aren't huge fans. But we can cross that bridge when we come to it.
They're the Microsoft of prosthetics.
They've sponsored us in the past.
Yeah, some people have said more like the McDonald's of prosthetics, but yes, I think that there are people who do pretty amazing work there, and I think that there are going to be pros and cons for any major company, but anyway, I think that I think that there's a potential there for possibly exploring some partnership. So
nice.
Yeah,
that's exciting. Keep us posted.
Yeah,
sounds like
will
it'll be
do.
a great event. Anybody have anything else? All right, we'll call it a wrap then. And for those of you who are joining the Bionics meeting, that'll be in about 10 minutes. And otherwise, I'll see you next week.
Now, this is the Bionics meeting that I am anchoring, right?
It is. Thank you. Yeah.
That's
No.
a
Here's a
helpful-
question.
A
Wait,
helpful reminder.
that's not under my account, I hope, because I have a Zoom meeting at the same time.
No, I believe that
It's under the e-NABLE account?
Sarah is going to set it up before she bails.
Okay. All right.
And
See y'all.
in fact, Sarah, are we going to just stay on this channel?
I can hand it over to you, but I will need to kick you out in 10 minutes.
So well, the answer is then it won't be in this channel. Okay.
All right. Bye all.
Okay, good. Thanks.